Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about a new Australian, I think it's a TV movie or maybe a serialised movie called Gold Mountain, and it's a story about the gold rush in Australia in the 1850s, which followed. It came shortly after the American gold rush, actually, out in California, and it was a gold rush of proportions that were comparable to the California gold rush. Not quite as big, but certainly getting up there. One of the larger gold finds ever in the modern world. So, but this movie or this show is it's supposed to be told from the perspective of the Chinese people who came to be miners in Australia in around 1854, 1855, sort of 1856, that time period. So I don't think you need to, the production team and the writing team and the people around it. I mean, you've got the usual suspects of, gay, lesbian, homosexual. The reviews you read about it, particularly from the left wing side. It's the evils of capitalism. There's misogyny. There's racism. There's evil white people, cultured, beautiful, sweet, lovely Chinese people, the oppressed blacks. It's got everything thrown in there that any sort of gender studies classroom would just swoon over. So they don't let it. It's almost as if they sort of, well, the people who are going to watch this are going to be lesbians doing gender studies. We'll make it for them, and we want to make them happy. It's almost as if that was the intention of the show. Because historically, it's historically there's very little there that you'd find is accurate, and from an entertainment viewpoint, it's very light on. But again, the reviews from the leftist rags and everything, they gush. I'm just looking at a well-known homosexual activist writer there, and he's reviewing it, and he just loves it because all he does is talk about oppression and misogyny and just non-stop. And again, we're talking about the 1850s, 150 or 170 years ago now, give or take. So the just to give you an idea of how crazy it is, the main Chinese guy in the movie, he's very well spoken. It sounds like he just came out of Oxford University or something. He's even got a bit of an Australian accent, for goodness sakes. He's well spoken, he's cultured, he's sensible, he's refined, very well dressed, always clean, in spite of the fact that he's meant to be a miner on the mine site. He's always very clean and very well presented. And the main Chinese woman is a strong woman. She puts those damn fucking men in their place, let me tell you. She also doesn't dress in Chinese dress, by the way. She dresses like a white colonial woman would in the day, which wouldn't have been the case. Then they've decided to reinvent. There's an Aboriginal tracker that's there, and these were men, but they've turned that on its head. This is a strong black woman, and she's the tracker. And by the way, she's better than any fucking man is. So that's they've taken care of the thing there. Now they've got this. The first white person you see in the thing speaks with an English Cockney accent. He's vulgar, brash, clearly low IQ. And he's standing next to this cultured, high IQ, very well-spoken Chinese guy, as if that would have happened. I mean, what an absurd. But they want to portray the white men as super misogynistic, very brutish, seriously uncultured, vulgar, hate-filled people who just hate other races for the sake of hating them. And that's all it is. That's how bad white people are, by the way. And these white people are damn evil. The other white people that aren't damn evil, if they are cultured and refined, it's only because they're evil exploiters of poor Chinese and black people. So really, there's nothing much to be said. There's maybe one positive role for a white person there, and that's a strong woman who puts those damn white men in their fucking place. So that's it. So that's really the thing. It's again the gender studies. The gender studies lesbians got together to create a TV show. Now, I wouldn't mind if they were historically accurate and they depicted it as it was. Were there really these super refined Chinese people speaking perfect English who were vastly more cultured than any white person? I mean, the likelihood of that's very slim indeed, given that these people came straight from southern China, straight to Australia. They wouldn't have spoken a word of English, or maybe a few words here and there. So no, these people wouldn't. Nor were they wearing white settler clothes. The photographs of the day clearly show them all wearing Chinese clothes, and with their pigtail hairstyles. And all that. So they were very Chinese. They wouldn't have spoken English, and they'd have brought all their Chinese customs and so on with them. But there's a bigger story here that I think isn't adequately laid out, and that is that by the time the Chinese started arriving, the easy to get at gold was already gone. So it was starting to involve, you had to dig deeper and get less gold for more effort and that sort of thing. So that was making life harder for the mines. On top of that, they introduced a new tax into the gold mining fields. They introduced a new tax. The local government, the colonial government had. And this was hitting the miners quite hard, and only the most successful and prosperous mines could really afford this, and so that was causing quite a bit of tension anyway, before any Chinese showed up. Then the Chinese started arriving, and they things would happen, like they claimed that they couldn't read the signs in English, that this was somebody's claim, so the Chinese would suddenly start work on a claim, work on a place for getting the gold, and it was actually somebody's claim. They just arrived. They just decided to set up shop in. So there was tension there, and moving people on, and clashes over, hey, this is my mine site. Off you go. And so there were these sorts of things were going on. Now the government, fearing the effect of the Chinese coming so late and then diluting the thing. Also, the Chinese were very adept at not paying the tax, and this was causing the white people to be rather annoyed, because they're saying, hey, we got to pay the tax. How come you guys aren't paying? So what the local government did in the state of Victoria, which is where these gold finds were, is they put an extra tax on any ship that brought Chinese people to Australia. This was an attempt to stop the influx to the gold fields. Now, they today portray that as some evil, wicked white racism, the hatred, the misogyny, and all this sort of crap. But it was just related to the gold fields, and the fact that the Chinese were claimed to be accidentally trying to take over white people's mine sites, and their avoidance of paying the tax. That was really the issue there. So they introduced this tax on ships that brought Chinese there. So this seemed to settle things down for a bit. But then the Chinese would land at a port that was outside of the jurisdiction of that particular regional government, and then they'd make the overland journey to the minefields. So this was viewed as they were just bypassing the laws that were meant to stop them from coming in, and this in turn created a lot of tension. Well, what are you guys doing here? You're not even supposed to be here. The colony of the port area, or colony of South Australia, had no axe to grind. They didn't care, so they didn't, initially at least, put any tax on ships that were bringing Chinese into Australia. So this carried on, this idea of the Chinese bypassing the tax and wriggling out of all efforts to stop them from coming to the gold fields, which wasn't racism. It was to do with the amount of gold declining and the difficulty in arbitrating disputes over gold, and the Chinese constantly saying, "Me no speak English," that sort of thing. So they tried to do that. In the end, it boiled over into unpleasantness, as you can imagine. There'd been the government kept pushing this tax, and the white people were having to pay it. The Chinese were managing to avoid it, and this was causing a lot of dissent, and it did flare up. Now they're trying to present that today as being just pure racism and hatred of people that weren't white. That's bullshit. That's just absolute bullshit. I'm sure if you really went through it, you could find an example of some white guy that didn't like or vice versa. The Chinese, and given the the Chinese, in terms of the white people, Europeans going to China, the Chinese viewed the Europeans as being as uncultured as dogs. So that this idea that the Chinese were these refined people and the Europeans were all the low-life scum is just absolute bullshit. And in fact, with the Chinese, one of the Chinese lords, when the British were in China, came to China, demanded that the British ambassador to China get down on his knees and bang his forehead on the ground, as it's called kowtowing, to show his inferiority to the Chinese. And he quite reasonably said that he would bow to the Chinese emperor or the heavies in the government. He would bow as he would to his own British king, but no more than that. And they were incensed by this. No, you're only a dog. You're an uncultured barbarian. This idea that it was uniquely the white men that were these vulgar, brutish people compared to the cultured, Chinese is just nonsense and just a propaganda invention. Now, one of the main producers of the movie isn't even from mainland China. She's Taiwanese and was born in Taiwan and came to Australia later, but wants to tell the story of helpless Chinese being oppressed by these wicked, evil white people. I mean, holy fuck! I mean, Jesus, when are you going to stop this nonsense, really? So anyway, that's a little bit about that. And if you go to, it's called SBS. That's S for Stephen, B for Bob, S for Stephen, and you'll be able to find this Gold Mountain show and make your own judgment on it. And I'd love to see your comments. That's my take on things. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.